Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. And today, we're going to be diving into Life on Our Planet by the one and only David Attenborough.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating book. It's part memoir, part urgent call to action about the environmental crisis. And Attenborough, he spent almost a century exploring our planet. He's witnessed firsthand the incredible beauty of the natural world, but also the really alarming changes that have taken place over his lifetime.
I think that's what makes his perspective so unique, right?
Yeah.
He started his career at a time when we still had these vast wildernesses that were relatively intact, and he's been able to see the decline, the loss, the impact of human activity in a way that few others have.
Yeah, he's seen it all. It's like he's holding up this mirror to humanity, showing us the consequences of our actions. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He starts the book with a really stark image of Pripyat. It's the abandoned city near Chernobyl. And he calls it a monument to the capacity of humankind to lose everything it needs and treasures.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
That image of Pripyat is so powerful because it sets the tone for the whole book. It's a warning. But it's also a story of resilience, right? Nature has reclaimed that space, showing us that even in the face of disaster, there's hope for renewal.
Yeah, there's this paradox. We have this power to cause so much harm as humans, but also this incredible capacity to heal and restore. And Attenborough's journey really embodies that duality. He takes us back to his childhood in the book, shares his early fascination with fossils and the natural world. And it's amazing how that childhood passion shaped his entire life and ultimately led him to this career of documenting the wonders of our planet so we could all see it.
What I think is fascinating is how that interest in fossils gave him this deep understanding of geologic time, right? He sees the Earth's history in a way that most of us just don't. He understands that change is a constant, but the pace of change we're witnessing now is just unprecedented.
Yeah, and he actually calls it the Great Acceleration. This surge in human activity, starting in the mid-20th century. It's population growth, increased consumption, technological advancements, all happening at this crazy exponential rate. It's like we hit fast forward on planetary change. And the consequences, as he describes them, they're becoming increasingly dire.
One of the key takeaways for me from the book is this idea of shifting baselines. We tend to judge the health of the planet based on our own limited experiences. So if you've never seen a pristine coral reef teeming with life, you might just accept a degraded reef as normal.
Right.
We kind of forget what we've lost.
Right.
And we adjust our expectations.
And it's like we don't know what we've got till it's gone. And Attenborough, he gives these heartbreaking examples of what we are losing. He talks about the dwindling polar bear populations, overcrowded walrus colonies forced onto land because the sea ice is melting, and the devastation of coral reefs due to warming oceans and acidification. Yeah. It's a real reality check.
And those examples, they're not just about the loss of individual species. They're indicators of a larger systemic problem. They're warning signs of a planet that's under immense stress. And if we don't heed those warnings, the consequences, they're going to be felt by all of us.
So where do we go from here? Is there any hope for turning things around?
Well, that's the question that kind of hangs over the entire book, right? And thankfully, the answer is not all doom and gloom. Attenborough, he really believes that we still have time to avert disaster. But it's going to require a fundamental shift in our thinking and a willingness to embrace some bold solutions.
So he's not just giving us the problems, he's actually giving us some solutions too.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, he lays out this whole vision for a sustainable future. And it's actually quite inspiring. It's not about giving up everything we enjoy, but it's about finding ways to live in balance with the natural world. He talks about the power of rewilding, like giving space back to nature to allow it to regenerate and thrive.
Rewilding, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. He uses this example of the Knepp estate in the UK. It's so compelling. They took this land that was intensively farmed for years, and they basically just let it go wild.
Wow.
And in a few years, it transformed into this incredible haven for biodiversity. It's a real-world example of how quickly nature can bounce back if we just give it a chance.
So it sounds simple. Just let nature do its thing.
Right.
But, he makes a strong case for why rewilding is important. It's not just about pretty landscapes.
No, not at all.
It's actually a strategy for mitigating climate change.
Exactly. Rewilded areas, they act as these massive carbon sinks. They pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and store it in the plants and the soil. It's like hitting the rewind button on some of the damage that we've done.
Okay, that's amazing. So rewilding, that's one solution. What else does he talk about?
Well, he also dives deep into the need for an energy revolution. Got to move away from fossil fuels embrace renewable energy sources like
Mm-hmm.
solar, wind, geothermal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I find really fascinating is that Attenborough sees this transition to renewables not just as a necessity, but as an opportunity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he envisions this future where communities are generating their own power. They become more resilient, less reliant on these centralized energy systems. It's about decentralization, sustainability, and empowering people to take control of their energy future.
Okay, so it's a pretty radical shift. But he's saying it's possible.
Yeah, and he backs it up with real-world examples of communities and countries that are already doing this. He argues that investing in renewables will not only benefit the environment, but also create jobs and boost local economies. It's a win-win.
Okay, so we've got rewilding, we've got the energy revolution. Anything else?
He also tackles this often overlooked issue of our food systems. Attenborough, he's a big advocate for reducing meat consumption, particularly red meat, which has a massive environmental footprint.
Right.
He highlights the inefficiency of meat production, especially compared to plant-based foods, and the strain it puts on our land, water, and energy resources.
So he's saying we need to change our diets.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that he's not about deprivation.
Right. He's not saying everyone needs to go vegan overnight. He acknowledges that giving up meat entirely might be a tough sell for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about finding a balance, making more conscious choices.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, and he even explores some of the exciting innovations in food technology, like plant-based meat alternatives, lab-grown meat. They have the potential to satisfy our cravings, but with a significantly lower environmental impact.
Oh, that's cool, like the Impossible Burger and stuff.
Exactly. He sees it as a way to bridge the gap, make it easier for people to transition to more sustainable diets without feeling like they're sacrificing enjoyment.
Okay, so we've talked about rewilding, the energy revolution, changing our diets. There's one other big piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Population growth.
That's right.
It's a sensitive topic.
There.
But he doesn't shy away from it. How does he approach this?
Well, his focus is on empowerment, not control. He believes that by improving the lives of women globally, through things like education, healthcare, access to family planning, we can actually create a natural decline in birth rates.
So it's not about forcing people to have fewer children.
No, it's about giving them the resources and the choices.
I see.
It circles back to that idea that a more just and equitable world is inherently a more sustainable world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When people have agency over their lives, over their futures, they tend to make different choices.
Right. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about empowering them.
Exactly.
And he doesn't let wealthy nations off the hook.
No, he challenges us to examine our own consumption habits. You know, do we really need all the stuff we accumulate? The constant upgrades, the excessive travel.
Good point.
Sometimes living a good life means choosing to live with less.
Yeah, that's a real shift in mindset. From valuing possessions to appreciating experiences, relationships, and the natural world that sustains us.
Right. It's about redefining what truly matters.
I like that.
And finally, he really stresses the importance of civic engagement, like voting for leaders who prioritize environmental policies, speaking up for change, holding corporations accountable. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix this. We have a responsibility to be part of the solution.
Yeah, it's about taking action. So it sounds like a life on our planet is more than just a warning. It's a call to action.
Absolutely.
He's giving us the knowledge, the tools, the inspiration to create a better future. It's up to us to use them. So we've covered a lot of ground here, talking about the challenges and these big systemic changes that Attenborough lays out. But for the average person listening, it can still feel a bit overwhelming, right? Like, where do we even begin to make a difference?
Yeah, it's easy to feel that way. But Attenborough, he doesn't just leave us with this sense of like, oh, the world's ending, what can we do? He actually offers a whole bunch of concrete actions, things that we can do as individuals to start making a difference right now.
Okay, so what are some of those things?
Well, he keeps coming back to the food we eat. Cutting back on meat, especially red meat, is still one of the most impactful things a person can do to reduce their environmental footprint.
So basically what we eat really matters.
It really does.
Okay, but does everyone need to go full-on vegan?
No, he's not saying that at all. It's not about being perfect. It's about shifting the balance. Maybe start with meatless Mondays or try incorporating more plant-based meals into your week. There are so many delicious options out there now. You don't have to feel deprived.
Yeah, there's a whole world of food to explore. And it goes beyond just our individual choices, right?
Absolutely. Attenborough wants us to think bigger, to push for changes in how our food is produced at a systemic level.
So like policy changes and stuff.
Exactly. Supporting policies that encourage sustainable agriculture. Maybe things like carbon taxes on high-impact foods, or subsidies for regenerative farming practices.
Okay, so that's food. What about something like rewilding? We talked about how important that is. But how can the average person contribute to that? It's not like we can all just go buy up huge estates and turn them back to nature.
Right, but we can support the organizations that are doing that work, donating to conservation groups, volunteering for tree planting projects, even advocating for more green spaces in our own communities. These actions all send a signal that we value nature and want to see it restored.
So even small actions can help.
Definitely.
It's about being more mindful of our impacts, right?
Exactly.
Attenborough also talks a lot about conscious consumerism, like choosing to buy from companies that prioritize sustainability.
Yeah, it's the idea that we vote with our wallets. Every purchase we make is like a tiny act of activism. And when enough people make those choices, it sends a powerful message to the market.
Companies will start to pay attention. Okay, so we've got the food, we've got supporting rewilding, being conscious consumers. We can't ignore the element in the room, though, population growth. It's a touchy subject, but it's something we need to address. What's Attenborough's take on that?
His approach is all about empowerment, not control. He argues that by improving the lives of women globally, through education, healthcare, and access to family planning, we can actually see a natural decline in birth rates.
So it's not about telling people to have fewer children.
No, it's about giving them the resources and the choices to make decisions that are right for them and their families.
It's about empowering women.
Exactly.
And creating a more just and equitable world in the process.
Right, which ultimately leads to a more sustainable world.
It all ties together.
It does.
And finally, Attenborough emphasizes the importance of civic engagement, like getting involved in the political process.
Yeah, making our voices heard. Voting for leaders who prioritize the environment, speaking up for change, holding corporations accountable. We can't just be passive observers.
We have to be active participants in shaping the future.
Exactly.
So A Life on Our Planet is a powerful book. It's a wake-up call, but it's also a call to action.
I agree.
Attenborough, he's given us a roadmap for a more sustainable future.
He's shown us what's at stake, but also what's possible.
It's up to us to take that roadmap and make it a reality.
And if you're feeling inspired to learn more after this conversation, I highly recommend picking up a copy of A Life on Our Planet. You can find a link to purchase the book and support this channel in the show notes.
And be sure to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more insightful book analyses and conversations about how we can all live more mindfully in this world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.